Sir Gideon and the Dragon of Oakhaven. Sir Gideon was a knight of the Silver Order, his armor gleaming like a fresh dawn after a storm. He was renowned not for his might, which was considerable, but for his unwavering courage and a heart that beat with the rhythm of justice. He had faced beasts of shadow and men of treachery, but his latest quest would test the very limits of his bravery. The village of Oakhaven, nestled at the foot of the Whispering Peaks, had fallen under a terrifying curse. Not a curse of plague or famine, but of fire and scales. A dragon, a creature of legend whispered about in hushed tones, had descended upon the peaceful valley. Its name was Ignis, and its breath was the scorching wind that withered crops and its roar the thunder that shattered windows. The villagers, once vibrant and full of song, now huddled in their homes, the smoke of Ignis's fiery visits a constant, sickening reminder of their despair. Their pleas for help had reached the ears of King Theron, and thus, Sir Gideon, the bravest of his knights, was dispatched. Gideon arrived in Oakhaven under a sky tinged with an unnatural red, the scent of sulfur thick in the air. The village was a tableau of devastation. Charred timbers stood like skeletal fingers reaching for the heavens, and the faces of the villagers, when they dared to peek from behind the damaged doors, were etched with a fear so profound it was almost palpable. Elder Maeve, her voice raspy with smoke and sorrow, met him at the village gates. "Sir Knight," she croaked, her eyes, once bright as emeralds, now clouded with despair, "you are our last hope. Ignis, he is a terror beyond imagining. He demands tribute, but his true desire seems to be our annihilation." Gideon dismounted, his boots crunching on scorched earth. He looked towards the imposing, jagged peaks, knowing his quarry resided within. "Fear not, Elder Maeve," he said, his voice resonant and steady, a balm to her weary soul. "Oakhaven will know peace again. I pledge my sword and my life to its liberation." He spent the next day gathering information, his keen eyes observing the destruction, his ears listening to the whispered accounts of Ignis's raids. The dragon was enormous, its scales like polished obsidian, its wings vast as sails. It was said to possess a cunning that belied its monstrous form. On the third morning, as the first rays of sunlight struggled to pierce the smoky haze, Sir Gideon rode towards the Whispering Peaks. He carried no shield, the heat of Ignis's breath would render it useless. His only weapons were his faith, his courage, and his enchanted sword, Truthsinger, a blade said to glow with divine light when facing true evil. The ascent was treacherous. The path was littered with the dragon's leavings, enormous claw marks gouged into the rock, and the skeletal remains of unfortunate creatures that had dared to wander too close. The air grew hotter, the silence more oppressive, punctuated only by the chilling moan of the wind through the rocky crevices. Finally, he reached a vast, cavernous opening, a gaping maw in the mountainside. A foul odor, a mixture of burnt flesh and acrid smoke, wafted from within. This was Ignis's lair. Taking a deep breath, Sir Gideon drew Truthsinger. The sword hummed in his hand, a faint, golden luminescence spreading across its blade. He stepped into the darkness. The cavern was immense, illuminated by the flickering, infernal glow of molten rock and the faint, phosphorescent moss clinging to the walls. In the center, coiled like a slumbering inferno, was Ignis. It was even more terrifying than the tales had described. Its scales shimmered, catching the light like 1,000 dark jewels, and its eyes, when they opened, were twin pools of molten gold, burning with ancient malice. So, a voice like grinding stones rumbled through the cavern, shaking the very foundations of the mountain. "A little knight comes to challenge me. How amusing." Ignis unfurled itself, its massive wings beating the air, creating a gust that threatened to extinguish Gideon's torch. "I come not to amuse, beast," Gideon replied, his voice echoing bravely in the vast space. "I come to end your reign of terror. Oakhaven will suffer no more." Ignis let out a roar that was a symphony of destruction, a blast of flame erupting from its maw. Gideon, anticipating the attack, rolled to the side, the inferno scorching the rock where he had stood. He saw his opportunity. As Ignis recovered, shaking its head, Gideon charged, Truthsinger held high. The battle was a whirlwind of fire, steel, and raw power. Ignis would lash out with its tail, a weapon capable of crushing boulders or spew torrents of flame. Gideon, nimble and swift, dodged and weaved, his movements a dance of survival. He parried the dragon's claws with the hilt of his sword, the tempered steel groaning under the immense force. Each time Ignis attacked with fire, Gideon would raise Truthsinger. The blade would absorb some of the heat, its glow intensifying, as if drawing strength from the very element it was meant to conquer. The dragon, growing frustrated, lunged, its jaws snapping with lethal intent. Gideon, with a surge of adrenaline, leaped onto Ignis's snout, his boots finding purchase on the rough scales. He scrambled towards the beast's head, dodging snapping jaws and gusts of hot breath. Ignis thrashed, trying to dislodge him, its roars of fury filling the cavern. Gideon held on, his grip like iron. He saw the vulnerable spot, just behind the eye, where the scales met the softer flesh of the dragon's neck. With a mighty cry, he plunged Truthsinger deep into the dragon's flesh. A deafening shriek of pain erupted from Ignis, a sound that tore through the mountain. The beast convulsed, its massive body writhing. The molten rock beneath it flared as Ignis's lifeblood, hot and viscous, spilled onto it. The dragon's golden eyes dimmed, then flickered out. With a final, earth-shattering tremor, Ignis collapsed, its reign of terror definitively over. Silence descended, broken only by Gideon's ragged breaths and the dwindling crackle of the molten rock. He slid from the dragon's lifeless form, his armor scorched, his body aching, but his spirit unbroken. He emerged from the cavern, blinking in the sunlight, a grim satisfaction on his face. As he descended the whispering peaks, the smoke began to clear from the valley. The villagers, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence, emerged from their homes. They saw Sir Gideon, weary but victorious, and the absence of the infernal glow that had haunted their skies. A cheer, hesitant at first, then building into a jubilant roar, swept through Oakhaven. They ran to greet their savior, their faces now etched with relief and profound gratitude. Elder Maeve, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks, embraced Gideon's armored leg. "You have done it, Sir Knight," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "You have saved us. Oakhaven will forever remember your bravery." Sir Gideon, the Knight of the Silver Order, had faced the dragon and emerged victorious. He had brought peace back to Oakhaven, not with brute force alone, but with a courage that burned brighter than any dragon's flame, and a heart that was truly and bravely just.